Allina Health is proud to support your Loons as the official healthcare provider of Minnesota United. Every day, we provide expert care to keep the team in top form on match day. All across Minnesota and western Wisconsin, you can find the same dedicated providers just a short drive away. It's expert care when and how you need it. Schedule your visit at allinahealth.org today. Allina Health, all together better. Welcome back to another Sound of the Loons pod brought to you by Allina Health. My name is Zarek Valentine, and we are here with the longest tenured employee in the club.
Yeah, either myself or Manny Lagos.
There you go. And that is none other than Miss Angie Blaker. Welcome to the podcast. Finally, I've been wanting to have you for so long. The people have been requesting. We've needed it. The Star Tribune wrote something about you this week, highlighting how much you punch food.
Yeah, yes. That's what I'm known for, you know.
But mainly how you basically are the backbone to the entire club. And what was your first year with the club?
2007, first season, intern.
There you go. And what was your initial role and how did you start off there?
I went to the Minnesota Twins Career and Internship Fair.
Nice.
And basically looked at all the other sports teams because I just gotten out of my undergrad, and I grew up watching the Minnesota Thunder at the time. So thought, oh my gosh, this could be it. And nobody was in that line to the Thunder at the time because it was, not as known, but I knew the team. So I, dropped my resume, and next thing you know, 19 years later, I'm still grinding.
19 years. So what age did you join at then?
What? We're not trying to figure out my age.
No. I'm just curious. Like, you've been here for almost half your life, pretty much. Actually, more than half your life because you're not that old.
Exactly. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite some time.
There's a lot to catch up on. So at your time, the games were being played up here at NSC, right?
Actually, my first couple years, we were playing at James Griffin in St. Paul, the high school field.
Whoa. So even before
soccer in the city. Well, yeah. They were playing up here. I grew up watching them playing here.
Yeah.
Then they did a couple years where they pivoted to try to grow the brand, and they were playing at a high school field in St. Paul.
Wow.
So when I started, that's where they were playing. And then a few years after that, and the team, I think, must have switched ownership at that point, went back up to the National Sports Center to invest in the stadium here and start, trying to push the team.
Yeah. So what year was that around? 2000 because the first year of the team was 2016. 17 was the first year in MLS.
Yeah. So 7, 8, and 9, we were Minnesota Thunder.
Yeah.
In 2010, I think it was, the current ownership kind of had dissolved, and the National Sports Center itself took on the team. So they're NSC Minnesota Stars.
Really?
For a season or two. And then the league at the time, NASL, took on ownership to keep the team alive for a year or two, I think it was. And then in 2013, Dr. McGuire took on the Minnesota United.
So take us back, and you talked through the ownership and the team change and stuff. Who was coaching and who was kind of running the team internally that either isn't here? I know Manny, you said, was one of the longer tenure, but was Carl Craig part of that group?
Carl was the coach at the time. Man, you're really gonna work my
oh yeah, that's
muscles.
why we're on the pod.
I think Carl Craig was the head coach. Amos McGee might have been the head coach the first year I was an intern. And then we had Donnie Gromans, who you might see out at the game next weekend.
One of the legends?
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, I think it was, Manny was in the picture, Carl Craig.
Yeah. So then were you there? Maybe not, you weren't in the locker room, but you were there when the whole Wonderwall tradition started, essentially.
Yeah,
and you've seen it grow. Was that something that you thought, this is cool, this won't catch on? Did you even think it would grow to the point where it is today?
No, not at all. I still get pretty, chills, and it's amazing to see the club in the stance that it's at, because when we were just a rambunctious small group of people, I couldn't give tickets away and you couldn't fill the stadium. And then as it, it really picked up and we won the NASL Bowl in 2011 and then almost won back-to-back championships back in 2012 then and didn't win, but it was very cool to see it progress and see that tradition carry on, because I think you could try to force tradition, but it doesn't really shake out. So it's nice to see them organically come together and that it's stuck out this long.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few. I showed Dennis, I believe, one of the videos where Carl and Callum kind of talk about the history of it, and they show some OG videos where the guys are in the locker room blasting, and then it's on the pitch here at NSC, and then now you fast forward, now there's a whole wall of people actually singing the song, which is kind of nuts. My personal stories, I actually hated the song for a long time because I kept losing. Whenever we played at TCF, I lost every game on that field. There was a black hole for my career, and I remember just hearing that song and be like, God, I hate this song so much. And then we moved to Allianz, and I still lost. I until we played for this team, I'd played against you guys probably 10 times away, maybe because we played an Open Cup as well, and lost pretty much every game. So I hated Wonderwall. Now I love it, but I'm happy I'm able to get back on that track. I'm back on track with that. But let's take it back to your role and how it's evolved and grown over the course of the years. Has it always stayed the same, or what's been the biggest change from your pre-MLS days to now the MLS days?
Yeah, I think when I first got brought in as an intern and I was just excited to learn it all, I joked that we were a camp business with a pro soccer team, because camps is where you generate a revenue and where you try to keep the thing alive. But, as the club grew, we had our entire front office, put that in perspective, was downstairs in what is now your guys' coach's locker room downstairs. That was our entire operations and everything. We had
in that room?
Yeah. We had like I guess the title probably was like president or like CEO. And then we had like 3 ticket sales people, someone that helped do the website and manage that. And then I was doing all the administration of just, the bare bones of things. So as the club grew and I was giving up tasks, I felt like, I'm going to be bored. I don't do game day operations anymore. I don't do ticket sales anymore, worry about the box office. And I was worried I wouldn't have enough to do. But as the club grew, and then I really honed in on specifically like the first team operations of it, I've definitely found enough to stay busy.
I think you're busy.
Yeah.
I think you have a lot to do. So then when did you officially move into the role that you are in now? Was that when they took the step to NASL, or was this strictly MLS days back in 16?
No, I think it was probably about, I think when it was weird. There was a couple of like U.S. soccer seasons too, right? Where it wasn't NASL, it wasn't USL. There was a couple of like USS, like Division 2 back
USSF.
in like Division, whatever it was in 2011, 12, or that was NASL. So, I think about in that era when Manny might have been the head coach at that time, he looked at me and it was gone were the days where you just pack 6 bags of equipment and pass it off to the coach and they hopped on a flight. It turned into, we need you to learn how to travel and start doing that. And then that's really, so probably since about 2013, I think I've been traveling and doing all the team logistics. So a decade and a couple of years.
So then what's the biggest thing in your role? Because I always joke about the amount of things you have to juggle. Is it just getting ahead of it? Is it kind of now that you've done it and you've been aware and you make relationships at the hotels, so then it's not, you feel very comfortable, or what's ways in which you make your job easier? Because there's, in my opinion, in your position and the equipment managers are some of the most valuable positions in the entire organization, and no one ever sees you guys. You're never seen. Maybe with the Star Tribune article, maybe it's going to be a little different and after the pod, but you're never seen. You're not on the field scoring goals. You're not in the stands. You're not on the pitch. I mean, you're on the pitch a little bit, but you're never seen. You're never seen.
Well, and I think a lot of what I'm trying to do is set the team up to succeed. So I'm trying to think and forecast any of those issues and get ahead of it. I think MLS has done a really good job of streamlining how we travel now. So that's just easy. I don't barely have to even think about a trip because they're so well run. And maybe that's from my experience, or maybe that's just because, being in a league that's established and the hotels relatively know how to handle teams. So it makes it easy. And then, because now we've grown, I build my own staff of player care people. And the biggest thing I want for them is we need to help with guys, anything they're doing off the field and behind the scenes to help them succeed on the field. So I think a lot of that is, we want to stay behind the scenes. We want to do whatever we can. So then when they go out on the field for 90 minutes, they're the best they can be.
Yeah. Well, good. You highlighted your staff, because you're not just a solo one-man band. You have a staff behind you. Can you take the fans into your support system? Because obviously you're very, very good at what you do, but you also surround yourself with very talented and really good people as well.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the club is growing. We're continuing to grow. We're continuing to change what it is we're after. And I think with that, we added a second team. So now I do have an administrator that handles our second team, and they're executing all those trips and travels. And then I support them when they need support with operations of their team. But we always have to work cohesively together. In addition to that, there's also a YDP admin that's doing the same thing, executing trips.
Name names.
CJ and Casty, yeah. Okay. And then also in addition to that, I have a little silo that I call player care, and I have Varen Proshek and Luis, and they are, a great support for everything that we're doing with the players off the field. We've launched language lessons this year, which has been a huge hit. We're also, just working on anything with guys with pets, guys with, kids, and how our game day experience is, and just anything that you could try to think of off the field. We're trying to be the best at that around the league.
And I can honestly say this, your team and you at your job over the course of my time in MLS has been the best that I've been a part of. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. I've said that, behind the camera. I've said that to many different people. And I think that I don't know how you built out your system and your team, because that's obviously your thing, but you're doing something right, because one of the first interviews I had the first interview I had with Julian Gressel specifically shouted out you and your team for how much care and, compassion and love you put into his transition, and said, Angie and her entire team had been amazing in terms of helping my family get settled, taking away a lot of the thinking, and just making it a more pleasurable experience. Because getting traded in the middle of the season, whilst I've never experienced that, I can only imagine with some kids and how challenging that is. So shout out to you and you guys for doing that. And that's just knowledge you've built up over your time, right? Kind of trying to plug and fill gaps and trying to anticipate things. And just, is that something, again, is it like a methodical process now, or is there constantly new things where it's like, well, now we got to solve this problem?
Well, yeah, the general idea is the same, but no two players will be the same, if that makes sense. Yeah. So depending on their background, their education, what country they're coming from or not, what languages they speak, do they have kids, do they have pets, do they, what is it that not every guy's going to want to be the same house, the same car, the same everything. And, do they need a social security number? So all that, it's a general consensus of, okay, we know what we need to accomplish, but not every case might be the same, whereas a guy might need a couple extra nights in a hotel as they try to figure out what they want to do. Or maybe, they already have a car, so it's just getting a car shipped up. So it's just the same motions, but just mastering that craft.
Yeah, and did that start, was that easier back in the day because it was more simple, or was it more complicated because, again, you're booking commercial flights and you're booking 30 tickets and you're dealing with everyone getting to the airport, going through security, as opposed to with Sun Country, it's a lot different. Was it easier back in the day, or they just both provide different challenges?
Yeah, I think there's different challenges with each of that, but now with the travel, it's very streamlined. I mean, even for players, I would imagine this is drastically better than what the travel used to be, which is crazy, because I think now with how many players have come in, I don't know what percentage, but many of them probably don't know the league before it was full chartered.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Where you'd show up and if you don't show up with enough time, you're not getting to security, you're not doing any of that.
Well, and I'm kind of like a dinosaur admin around the league, and so we've the ones of us that have been here pre-COVID understand some of those challenges of commercial travel, whereas some of those new admins might not quite know the hardships of having to go to SeaTac and drag your bags like a half mile to the bus or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah. My rookie year, I'm going to shout out Zach, because I know Zach did this on purpose. I remember Zach Thornton would I'm convinced purposely ask for a middle seat. And this was back, my first year in MLS was the last year they played each team home and away. I'm convinced he purposely asked for a middle seat, and then he would come find me and he would give me a middle seat and take whatever aisle or window I had. And that was my entire rookie year. So Los Angeles to New York, Los Angeles to Columbus, Los Angeles to DC, Los Angeles to Philadelphia. It was all middle. It was 6 hours sitting in the middle. And that was just a world in which some of these spoiled little brats now in MLS don't understand how they don't have a full row to themselves every single time. And the hotels are much nicer too. I imagine the accommodations throughout your time have changed a lot as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then it's like, I feel like I've created my own monster, because as that standard around the league is growing, then all of our standards grow. And it's like, well, you have to keep up with that.
And then how do you, is that part of your job to now find new hotels? I think I forget which one ours is, but is it your job to source some of those things if they do change, or do you have to finagle those relationships, or is that something that the club does?
Yeah, the club and the league work together to simultaneously confirm that, the hotels that teams want to work with, because there's local relationships that we have with our host hotel, Renaissance the Depot, and then the league has to make sure that that's to the standard that they're looking for. And then after every trip, we're set to all provide feedback, and then that helps push those hotels whether or not they can keep up with that demand, or it might not make sense for their business model either. Because I know during COVID, it was great. We could go into these hotels and there wasn't business, but now everything's open back up. Yeah. And so everything's just more busy. They have a lot of conferences and other things going on. So we might not be a top priority for their business.
Do game day like a VIP with Minnesota United premium tickets. From suites to private boxes to the outdoor roof deck experience, Allianz Fields offers a range of luxury seating options that'll make you feel like a pro. Learn more about our special spaces at allianzfield.com. Speaking of COVID, there must have been some really weird times for you, especially having to logistically navigate those moments. If you can remember any sort of instances, whether it was in the bubble, whether it was just travel, whether it's, anything logistically that you can remember that either was funny, was difficult, was something that you never want to wish upon anyone. Because I remember in the bubble, there was two hotels. There was the Dolphin and the Swan. And the Dolphin was the contaminated one. That was the one where COVID was running rampant through there. And then the Swan was like the safe haven for a bit. And I remember having to just sit there and, we would test every morning, I think it was. We would do on game days, and we played at 10 o'clock at night, East Coast, and having to kind of get that schedule down and have it be so pinpoint because we were living in this unknown world of COVID. I can only imagine how tough and logistically that was for you to navigate every one of these barriers to either not get in trouble or just not get sick.
I think unless you lived in the bubble, you really don't understand the bubble. And it was, I had been, with the club long enough to know that if we didn't kick the season off again, it would be dark times. Yeah. I'm someone who loves being at home. And when I was at home and still got to work and just be at home, I was like, this is great. I never have to go back to work, but I was like, I do if I want to keep a paycheck. So yeah, the league navigating that and getting the season kicked off and as safe as best of a way as possible. But the bubble was a crazy time. And those games, weather delays every day and just like navigating, I lost count after I was up into the mid 300s of how many times I'd been tested.
300s?
And then I lost count.
Then you just let it go?
Because I was like, I can't keep up with this. But, we got through the tournament. We got through the season. It was one of our better seasons maybe. And that was the first time I realized Michael Boxall had a voice because you're sitting at, ESPN Sports, where all the games were. You're sitting there. There's no fans in the stands, and you could, hear the players.
Wild World of Sports.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. You can, hear the guys on the field.
Yeah. Speaking of Boxy, he's been one of the longest tenured players. And you've been here, you've seen almost every single player within the past 20 years walk in and out of the building. Are there any that stand out for you for any fun or interesting reasons? I know that you as an admin develop good relationships with the players because you take such good care, and I hope that the players reciprocate that in some version of saying thank you. But we've crossed paths both with Christian Ramirez. That's one person we both spent time with, obviously. You have some interesting personalities of Lawrence Olams, who we've talked about. Lawrence is awesome. And are there any players throughout your time that you said, that was such a special, interesting individual that we were lucky to have, just be a Minnesota player?
Well, yeah, any guy that comes through, you're all uniquely different. And I think that's what's helped maybe me just culturally understand the difference or how to navigate when you're getting a guy that, Bongi, who came from deep into South Africa. And I'm like, okay, well, now he's in the U.S. for the first time ever. So it's just navigating that and the relationships and just getting to know the personalities. And as much as I can, I try to keep in touch with as many of the guys as possible. I call him my original son, Miguel Ibarra, who's very close with Christian. I still have photos of those two sharing a room in the dorms here at the sports center. And then, it's just.
We need to put that picture up there. I want to get that picture.
We can find that. Yeah. So it's just, and seeing these guys now grow up, have their own families, have kids. A couple of them are coming back this next weekend for the game, and it'll be fun to see them. And when we go to cities where some of them are living now, trying to just cross paths. Ike Opara was in town yesterday for the Tuesday game, but it was in Rochester, so we didn't catch up this time, but next time.
So did you ever think the club would get to this point? I mean, obviously everyone has ambitions, but genuinely, did you think we'd get to this point where we're selling at Allianz Field, 20,000 people, Wonderwall's blasting, and we're riding off into the sunset? Or was that just never something that was even part of your comprehension?
It wasn't. As a child, I already thought the team was the team, and that was the Mecca.
Yeah.
And then when I got into it and realized the reality of, we're not quite as big as the Twins, we're not quite as big as the Wolves, it was like, interesting. Can this thing pick up? And then seeing some of the darker days when maybe ownership dissolved, or seeing some of the darker days of like, are we going to keep this thing going? It was like, I don't think we can. When we went to MLS, and it was like, okay, this is cool. But then when we knew we were getting our own stadium, it's been, incredible. It's a great journey. It's great to see full stands. I know I have family members that are on like the season ticket wait list, and that's a great feeling.
You can't upgrade them? We can't get them?
Maybe I don't push it enough. I don't know.
All right, well, listen, we're just going to finish up here, and I'm going to go through some just some quick fire questions about just services and things that have happened over your tenure. And I'll give you a little bit of time to think. I don't want you to think too much, but what has been the weirdest request that someone has asked you to help with? Or
they probably don't want me sharing it on the podcast. No, but I mean, like I said, I did right before we were boarding a commercial flight, I got the gender of Christian Ramirez's first child. And while we were traveling to LA, I pulled together a gender reveal party for him in LA. So that was like a cool one. Like I said, I've done some courthouse marriages. I've helped with, guys as they start to have children and some of that, and setting them up with OBGYNs. So I don't know. I probably know where way too many bodies are buried. That's
there
for
you
sure.
Go. In moving expenses, you've worked in moving expenses. What has been the most ridiculous thing a player has tried to claim as a moving expense?
I mean, I got a lot of those. Can I throw this person on the bus?
We have a bus for sure.
Well, I know, there's some wild stuff, and that's the joy of a player in their CBA and the league and the dynamic of the clubs. And yeah, for sure, I believe we purchased a refrigerator for a player for a house that wasn't even his, Abu Denladi.
I know. I remember I talked to Spencer Childs, one of our mutual friends, once, and he said that the craziest request he's seen was a $6,000 TV and a Louis Vuitton suitcase, and neither got processed. But I can only imagine the weird things that players are trying to kind of squeeze. So he wanted to get a fridge for a different house.
Yeah, and I think it ended up getting pushed through, I believe. And again, it's the pros and cons of the relationship of the dynamic of the PA and the clubs in the league and how they bring relocation together.
Okay, and then my final question would be, what's one of the weirdest asks you've had? Meaning whether it's a player trying to move something, whether it's a player needing you to help facilitate a babysitter, or what has been something where a player's come to you and said, Angie, I need help with this, and you're going, well, that has nothing to do with my job.
I just don't think that's the problem. I don't ever say no. I try to figure it out. I mean, there was one day where Boxy did get in a pinch, and he brought Maxwell to training, and I just had his baby. Like, I babysat the kid during training. So
jack of all trades, woman of all trades.
I just had to keep her alive, and I did.
Well, that's good. That's good. But genuinely, as I stated previously, you and your department are the best I've seen and best I've been worked with, and you are one of the foundational pieces of the club that if you left, the place would go up in flames, because you've been here for so long, you've seen everything. And for myself, thank you for taking care of myself and my teammates, because I know they all appreciate it. Whether those ragamuffins downstairs want to admit it or not, or whether they tell you enough, they really do appreciate everything you and your team does. But that's it. It went by quick. I told you. See, the pod's over.
Hip hooray. I'm sure you and I could probably talk all day.
I know. It's funny because you were hesitant to come on. You said it's going to be a long one, and look, it's done just like that. But thank you so much for coming on and taking the time. Please check out the article as a Star Tribune.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Check me out.
Yeah, well, they highlight all the incredible things you do, because, again, you are integral to what this club does and how player happiness. And I can tell you, and I promise you right now, the players perform better when the admins are good at their job. And you're pretty damn good at your job. So thank you so much for coming on this week's episode of Sound of the Loons podcast, brought to you by Line of Health. Maybe we'll have you back on if you want to come back on. If you don't, no problem. I'm happy we were able to get you now for 23 minutes and 3 seconds. But thank you so much for coming on.
Stay blessed.
Stay blessed.